Everybody lies. Your kids lie to you. Your spouse lies to you. Your coworkers lie to you. The guy at the car dealership lies to you. The woman on the phone saying she's from the IRS is lying to you. Politicians lie to you every single day without blinking. And the worst part isn't that they lie. The worst part is that most people can't tell. Most people sit there nodding along, completely oblivious to the fact that the person across from them is feeding them absolute garbage. And they believe it. They take it in, they act on it, and they don't realize they were played until it's too late. I spent 14 years at the Central Intelligence Agency. During that time, one of the most valuable skills I developed wasn't how to shoot a weapon or how to run a surveillance detection route. It was how to tell when someone was lying. Because in intelligence work, lies are currency. Everybody's trading in them. Assets lie to their handlers. Handlers lie to their assets. Foreign officials lie during negotiations. Double agents lie about everything. And if you can't detect those lies in real time, people die. Operations fail. National security gets compromised. So they trained us. They trained us hard. And the things I learned in those windowless rooms at Langley, I'm going to share with you right now. Now, before we get into this, let me be clear about something. There is no single magic trick that tells you someone is lying. There's no one gesture, no one phrase, no one look that means somebody is definitely being dishonest. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. What there is a system. A set of indicators that when you see them cluster together, tell you that something is off. That the person in front of you is not being straight with you. That's what the agency taught me. Not to look for one thing, to look for patterns, clusters, shifts. And once you learn to see those patterns, you will never unsee them. You'll walk into every conversation, every meeting, every interaction, and you'll know. You'll just know. Let me walk you through exactly what to look for. The baseline. This is where everything starts. The biggest mistake people make when trying to detect lies is they jump straight to looking for signs of deception without first understanding how the person normally behaves. That's like trying to spot a counterfeit bill without ever looking at a real one. You have to know what normal looks like before you can spot abnormal. At the agency, before any interrogation, before any debriefing, we would spend time establishing what we called a baseline. That means we'd have a casual conversation with the subject about things we already knew the answers to. Simple stuff. Where did you grow up? How many siblings do you have? What did you have for breakfast this morning? Things that are easy to answer and have no reason to lie about. During this baseline conversation, we'd watch everything. How fast do they talk normally? How much do they move their hands? Where do they look when they're thinking? How long are their pauses? Do they lean forward or lean back? Do they touch their face a lot or keep their hands still? What does their voice sound like when they're relaxed and telling the truth? That's the baseline. That's what honest looks like for this specific person. Because here's the thing most people don't understand. There is no universal body language for lying. Some people touch their nose when they're nervous, not when they're lying. Some people avoid eye contact because they're shy, not because they're being deceptive. Some people fidget constantly whether they're lying or telling the truth. If you don't know what someone's normal behavior looks like, you're going to misread everything. So the first rule is this. Before you try to catch someone in a lie, have a normal conversation with them first. Pay attention, watch, listen. Build that baseline. Then, when you ask the questions that matter, you'll notice the shifts, and the shifts are everything. The eyes, but not the way you think. Everyone thinks liars avoid eye contact. That's one of the most persistent myths about deception, and it's wrong. Or at least, it's incomplete. Some liars avoid eye contact, yes. But you know what a lot of liars do? They give you too much eye contact. They stare you down. They lock onto your eyes and don't look away because they've been told their whole lives that looking away means you're lying, so they overcompensate. They force themselves to maintain eye contact to appear honest, and it ends up feeling unnatural, too intense, too deliberate. What you want to watch for is change. If someone has been making comfortable, natural eye contact during your baseline conversation and then suddenly starts looking away when you ask a specific question, that's a shift. That means something. Conversely, if someone has been casually glancing around and suddenly locks onto your eyes like their life depends on it when you ask about something specific, that's also a shift. Both are indicators. Neither one alone proves anything. but both tell you that the question you just asked triggered something. There's another eye behavior we watched for at the agency. Blink rate. When people are under cognitive stress, and lying is cognitive stress because your brain is simultaneously constructing a false narrative, monitoring the listener's reaction, and suppressing the truth, their blink rate changes. Usually it increases. They start blinking more rapidly. Sometimes the opposite happens, and they'll have a long, sustained blink, almost like their brain is hitting a reset button before they deliver the lie. Watch for that. It's subtle, but once you see it, it's unmistakable. The other thing about eyes is the timing of eye movement relative to speech. When people are recalling something real, a genuine memory, their eyes tend to move before they start speaking. They're accessing the memory, then they talk about it. When people are constructing something, making it up, their eyes and their speech often start at the same time, or the eye movement comes after. The sequencing is different. It's fast. It takes practice to catch it, but it's one of the most reliable indicators I ever used. The voice. Listen for what changes. Most people focus on watching for lies. They forget to listen for them. But the voice is one of the most revealing channels of deception because most people don't know how to control it. You can practice your facial expressions in a mirror. You can train yourself to keep your hands still. But controlling your voice under stress is incredibly difficult. Your body betrays you through your vocal cords whether you want it to or not. Here's what to listen for. Pitch changes. When someone is lying, their vocal pitch often rises slightly. Not dramatically, not like they're suddenly squeaking, but there's a subtle upward shift. It happens because the muscles in the throat tighten under stress. You won't catch it if you're not paying attention. But if you've established that baseline, and you know what their normal pitch sounds like, you'll notice when it creeps up. Speed changes. Liars often speed up or slow down compared to their baseline. Some people rush through the lie because they want to get past it as quickly as possible. They dump the false information fast and then try to move on to safer ground. Other people slow way down because they're carefully choosing every word, constructing the lie in real time, making sure they don't contradict themselves. Both are tells. The key is the change from baseline, throat clearing and swallowing. When the body goes into stress mode, the autonomic nervous system reduces saliva production. Your mouth gets dry. So people swallow hard or clear their throat right before or right after delivering a lie. It's involuntary. They can't stop it. And it's one of the easiest vocal cues to spot because it's audible. Filler words. Like, you know, well, so. An increase in filler words often indicates increased cognitive load. The person's brain is working harder than normal, and the filler words are the processing gaps where the brain is catching up with the mouth. Now, some people use a lot of filler words naturally. That's why the baseline matters. But if someone who normally speaks fluidly suddenly starts stumbling over their words and filling gaps, pay attention. And then there's the qualifier. This is a big one. When people are lying, they often add unnecessary qualifiers to their statements. To be perfectly honest with you, I swear on my mother's grave, to tell you the truth, honestly, believe me, these phrases are designed to convince you. But here's the thing. Honest people don't need to convince you they're being honest. They just tell you. The truth doesn't need a sales pitch. When someone starts prefacing their statements with assurances of honesty, your radar should go up immediately. We had a saying at the agency. The more someone tells you they're being honest, the less honest they're being. I've found that to be true about 90% of the time. The body. It speaks louder than words. The human body is a terrible liar. The mouth can say anything. The body almost always tells the truth. And the disconnect between what someone is saying and what their body is doing is where you find the deception. The first thing to watch is what we called pacifying behaviors. These are self-soothing gestures that people unconsciously perform when they're under stress. Rubbing the back of the neck, touching the face, stroking the arm, playing with jewelry, adjusting clothing, bouncing a leg. These aren't proof of lying by themselves, but when they appear in clusters, especially in response to a specific question, they tell you the person's stress level just spiked. Something about that question made them uncomfortable, and discomfort during a direct question is worth paying attention to. Hand behavior is particularly revealing. When people are telling the truth, especially when they're passionate about what they're saying, they tend to use open, illustrative hand gestures. Hands moving freely, palms showing, gestures that match the rhythm and emphasis of their words. When people are lying, their hand movement often decreases. They'll put their hands in their pockets, sit on them, clasp them together, or hide them under a table. It's like the body instinctively tries to contain itself, to make itself smaller, to hide. There's also what we call the freeze response. Right before someone delivers a significant lie, their body will often go momentarily still. Everything stops. The fidgeting stops. The gestures stop. The movement stops. It's like the body locks up for a split second while the brain prepares to deliver the false statement. Then they speak, and the movement resumes. That freeze is incredibly telling. It lasts maybe half a second, but if you're watching for it, you'll catch it. Shoulder shrugs are another one. When someone makes a definitive statement, "I didn't do it," "I wasn't there," "I have no idea what you're talking about," but accompanies it with a slight shoulder shrug, that's a contradiction. The words are saying one thing. The body is saying, "I'm not sure about what I just said." A single shoulder shrug is especially significant. It's an asymmetric gesture, which suggests internal conflict. The person doesn't fully believe what they're saying, and their body is leaking that doubt. Feet and legs are the most honest part of the body. Most people focus on controlling their face and their hands when they're lying, because they know that's where people look. But nobody thinks about their feet. Under stress, people will bounce their legs, tap their feet, point their feet toward the exit, cross and uncross their legs repeatedly, or wrap their feet around the legs of a chair. All of these are indicators of discomfort and a desire to escape the situation. If someone's feet are telling you they want to leave, while their mouth is telling you everything's fine, believe the feet. The words, how liars construct sentences. This is the part most people miss entirely. They're so focused on body language and eye contact that they forget to actually listen to the structure of what's being said. But the way a person constructs their sentences when they're lying is fundamentally different from how they construct them when they're telling the truth. First, distancing language. When people lie about their involvement in something, they unconsciously distance themselves from the lie linguistically. They avoid first-person pronouns. Instead of saying, "I didn't take the money," they'll say, "The money wasn't taken by me," or "Nobody took any money," or "That money situation has nothing to do with me." They're removing themselves from the statement, putting space between themselves and the deception. It's subtle, but once you start listening for it, you'll hear it everywhere. Second, tense switching. When someone is recounting a real memory, they tend to stay in one tense. I went to the store. I bought some groceries. I came home. Past tense throughout. When someone is fabricating a story, they'll often switch tenses mid-narrative. I went to the store, and I'm looking at the shelves, and then I bought what I needed. The shift from past to present and back happens because they're constructing the story in real time instead of recalling it. Their brain is building the lie as they go, and the tenses slip because the narrative isn't anchored in actual memory. Third, unnecessary detail. Liars often over-explain. They give you more information than you asked for. You ask a simple yes or no question and you get a 3-minute answer with backstory, context, justification, and a detailed timeline. They do this because they think more detail equals more believable. They're trying to build a fortress of information around the lie to make it impenetrable. But it actually has the opposite effect. When someone gives you way more information than the question requires, it usually means they rehearsed it. They prepared this answer. They were waiting for you to ask. Fourth, the non-answer answer. This is one of the most common deception techniques in the world, and politicians use it constantly. You ask a direct question and the person responds with something that sounds like an answer, but actually isn't one. Did you steal the money? I would never do something like that. You know me. I'm an honest person. I've worked here for 15 years. Notice what happened. They didn't say no. They gave you a character reference about themselves. They told you about their integrity, but they never actually answered the question. When someone responds to a direct question with anything other than a direct answer, ask the question again and again until you get a yes or a no. If they keep dodging, you have your answer. Fifth, the rehearsed narrative. When someone tells you a true story and you ask them to tell it again, the second telling will be slightly different. They'll remember new details, forget some, change the order slightly. That's because real memories are messy. They're not stored like a movie that plays the same way every time. When someone tells you a lie and you ask them to repeat it, the second telling will be almost identical to the first. Same words, same order, same details, same pauses. Because it's not a memory, it's a script. They memorized it and they're performing it again. Ask them to tell the story backward. Start from the end. A truthful person can do this, clumsily but accurately. A liar will struggle enormously because you can't reverse engineer a script the way you can navigate a real memory. Putting it all together, the cluster rule. I want to hammer this point one more time because it's the most important thing I'm going to tell you. No single indicator means someone is lying. Not one. I don't care if they avoided eye contact. I don't care if they touched their nose. I don't care if they said honestly 14 times. No single behavior in isolation proves deception. What proves deception is clusters. When you see 3, 4, 5 indicators happening at the same time in response to the same question, that's when you know. The voice pitched up, the blink rate increased, the hands went still. They used distancing language. They gave you way more detail than necessary, and they cleared their throat right before the key statement. That's a cluster. That's 5 or 6 indicators all firing at once. And that is as close to a certainty as you can get without a polygraph. At the agency, we called it the hot spot. When a question produces a cluster of deception indicators, that question is a hot spot. It doesn't tell you exactly what the lie is, but it tells you exactly where to dig. So you ask follow-up questions around that topic. You approach it from different angles, and you watch for more clusters. The clusters will lead you to the truth every time. Closing. Look, I'm not telling you to become paranoid. I'm not telling you to sit across from your wife at dinner and analyze her blink rate. That's not what this is about. What this is about is giving you a tool, a skill, something that you can use when it matters. When someone is trying to sell you something you don't need. When someone is trying to scam you out of your retirement. When someone is making promises they have no intention of keeping. When something feels off and you can't put your finger on why. That feeling you get sometimes. The gut feeling that something isn't right. That feeling is your brain picking up on these indicators subconsciously. Your brain is seeing the clusters. It's noticing the pitch change, the hand freeze, the distancing language. It just can't articulate what it's seeing, so it sends you a feeling instead. What I've just taught you is how to make that feeling conscious, how to turn that vague sense that something's wrong into a specific, actionable assessment. The truth is, these skills saved my life more than once during my career. Not in some dramatic Hollywood shootout way, in the quiet way. In the meeting where I realized an asset was being run by the other side because his story was too perfect, too rehearsed. In the negotiation where I caught a foreign official contradicting himself because his feet told me a different story than his mouth. In the debrief where I noticed a colleague's voice pitch change on one specific question, and it turned out that question was the entire key to the case. You don't need to work in intelligence to use these skills. You just need to pay attention. Stop hearing and start listening. Stop looking and start watching. The truth is always there. People are always telling you who they are and what they're doing. Most of the time, we're just not paying close enough attention to notice. Start noticing. Let me leave you with one more thing. A story from my early years at the agency that I've never forgotten. I was sitting in on a debriefing of a foreign national who was offering to sell us intelligence. High-value stuff. The kind of information that could change the outcome of an entire operation. He was smooth, polished. He had answers for everything. His story was detailed, consistent, and delivered with perfect confidence. Everyone in the room was leaning toward believing him. Everyone except my instructor, who was sitting in the back corner, not saying a word. After the debriefing, I asked him what he thought. He said, "That man is lying about everything." I asked how he knew. He said, "His story was perfect." Real stories are never perfect. Real memories have gaps. They have contradictions. They have moments where the person says, "I don't remember exactly," or "I think it was Tuesday, but it might have been Wednesday." That man had no gaps, no hesitation, no uncertainty about anything. He told us a story the way an actor performs a script, word perfect. And the truth is never word perfect. He was right. Turned out the guy was a dangle, a plant sent by the other side to feed us false information. And the thing that gave him away wasn't some dramatic slip-up. It was the absence of imperfection. His lie was too clean. The truth is messy. Remember that. If someone's story sounds too good to be true, too complete, too confident, too rehearsed, it probably is. If this was useful to you, subscribe to this channel. I've got more to share. Everything they taught me at the agency, I'm bringing to you. No clearance required. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. And send this to someone who needs it. We all know someone who's too trusting. Someone who keeps getting taken advantage of. Send it to them. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember, they all lie the same way. I'll see you in the next one.